Outriders is an RPG co-op shooter created by People Can Fly and Square Enix. After a couple delays in 2020, it's finally set to release on April 1st, 2021, and it will be available to purchase on Xbox Series X and S, PS5, Xbox One, PS4, Steam, the Epic Store, and even Google Stadia. However, a demo is being made available on February 25th, meaning that anyone that wants to can try the game before buying it. So I thought it'd be useful to make a video going over everything you'll need to know about Outriders before jumping into the demo. If you end up finding the video useful, definitely give it a like, it helps out the channel a ton, and maybe subscribe to stay up to date on all of my future content. So first and foremost, let's answer the question, what type of game is Outriders? Outriders is a story-driven RPG shooter that will have you create your own character, or an Outrider, and the Outriders are the last hope of the human race trapped on the world of Enoch, a dangerous and untamed planet. The campaign can be completed entirely in single player or in co-op with up to 3 players. The game at its core is a looter shooter, but unlike many before it, Outriders promises to have deep lore and an engrossing story. It will not have any PvP elements whatsoever, but it does have a lot to offer. The main storyline alone should take around 25 to 30 hours to complete, but if you're able to play all the side quests and post-campaign content, you're looking at 2 to 3 times that amount. And speaking of post-campaign content, it's important to note that Outriders isn't just another live service looter shooter game. Outriders is a complete experience out of the box, and the game doesn't stop after the main storyline is completed. It will feature 15 new mission areas of endgame content, which they call expeditions, each with increasing challenges and greater rewards. What's great about the expeditions though is that they're not just recycled areas from the main campaign. They're played in unique areas made just for the endgame. There's a possibility of DLC in the future, but day one, Outriders will have tons of content to enjoy right out of the box. No season passes, no microtransactions, just gaming. And I feel like in a lot of looter shooters these days that is not the case. You're always waiting for that next thing to come. Outriders should have you covered from day one. And speaking of having you covered, Outriders will feature full crossplay. Sure, it's releasing on a lot of platforms, that's great and all, but if you're on Xbox and you can't play with your friends on PC or PS5 or whatever, then it kind of takes away from the experience. Fortunately, Outriders will allow full cross-platform play, but it does have one caveat. Apparently right now there's no endgame comms, so you'll have to rely on another way to party up if playing with crossplay, be that through an Xbox party chat, Discord, something. Players will just have to figure it out, and maybe that's something that can be added down the line, but either way, being able to play with friends no matter what platform they play on is great. Now let's talk a little bit about the characters that you can play in the game. Outriders will offer 4 classes to play at launch, each with unique abilities, playstyles, and skill trees. The RPG portion of this RPG shooter really doesn't hold back. There are tons of different ways to play with 8 unique abilities and 3 branches on each skill tree per class. The 4 classes are the Trickster, the Pyromancer, the Devastator, and the Technomancer. The Trickster is a class that gets in and out of the battle, causing massive damage up close, all while manipulating time and space to control the battlefield. It's a class that's meant for the most aggressive players. The Pyromancer is a mid-range class that can control the battlefield with a number of abilities, and you'll also be able to set nearly everything on fire, and with that being said, it'll probably be the first class that I try. The Devastator is the tank of the 4 classes, but it can also deal an enormous amount of damage. Out of all the classes, the Devastator will have the best chance of going toe-to-toe with the biggest enemies. And finally, the Technomancer is a long-range support class, and it's the only class that can heal teammates. The Technomancer will focus on tech and gadgets to take the enemies down, and they can also apply a number of status effects causing damage over time. Outriders really does provide a wide range of ways to play the game. Each class is unique, offering lots of replayability. Next, let's talk about the healing items in the game, or the complete lack thereof. For the most part, the way you heal yourself in Outriders is to kill things. Instead of falling back and taking cover like most games, you'll need to get in there and start wreaking havoc. Each class has a different way of healing, and like I said before, only the Technomancer class can heal teammates. Like other games in this genre, if you're playing co-op, if you get down, you can get picked up by your teammates. But even if you're playing solo, some classes have passive skills that will allow you to cheat death. This is definitely one of the things that makes Outriders unique compared to some of these other games. It really does make you focus on battling it out to stay alive. Next up, let's talk about the loot. Of course, there's a tiered rarity system like most games have, but I think the different mods and effects the guns, armors, and skills can have set it apart. There are over 350 mods in the game, and each one can transform your character and the way that you play. You'll also be able to tear down lower level weapons to recover their mods and crafting materials, allowing you to constantly change up your current loadout. So far, from what I've seen, the crafting system looks very deep in this game and more complex than it seems at first glance. Now, like I said, the demo starts on February 25th, but there's a few more notes about the demo that I would like to share. It looks like in the demo, it'll allow us to play the beginning of the game, and it's important to note that any progress that you make in the demo can be carried over to the full game if you purchase it. You also have the ability to play with all 4 classes, and the demo won't actually go away in a few days or a week. It's not a limited time event thing. It's going to be available to play for the foreseeable future. I'm definitely looking forward to trying out every single class and just getting an overall feel for what the game's going to be like. It's not very often that we get demos of games before we can actually purchase them, so that makes me think that the devs over at People Can Fly and Square Enix are pretty proud of their game and are confident that we'll like what we see. Next, let's talk about the performance. The game is going to target 30 frames per second on the Xbox One and PS4 consoles, but it's going to target a smooth 60 frames per second on next-gen systems, and I'm really happy about that. I was kind of worried in the very beginning, but I've been seeing lots of 60 frames per second gameplay on the trailers, and it does look like on PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles, they're going to be targeting 60 frames per second. And not to worry, if you buy the game on Xbox One or PS4, the upgrade to the next-gen version is free as long as you're staying on that same platform. It's going to use smart delivery on Xbox and be a free upgrade on PlayStation. If you buy it when you're playing on a previous gen system and then you get a next gen system, you won't have to repurchase the game. A couple more things I want to mention about the game, and this one can kind of be a negative in some people's opinions. One thing that might rub people the wrong way is how some of the enemies are a bit spongy. This seems especially true for bosses as far as the gameplay that I've seen, but all looter shooter games have this characteristic. Even in a more realistic game like The Division, you have some guys that take an enormous amount of ammo to kill. But I guess we'll have to see just how it goes when we get to play the demo to be sure, but I don't expect this to be too big of an issue. And one final thought, one more thing to talk about as far as what to expect with this game. If I had to describe Outriders to someone, I'd try and see if I can compare it to games they've already played. It's got a cover system similar to The Division and Gears of War. It's got abilities and dialogue like Mass Effect. It's got loot and skill trees like Borderlands, a menu system like Destiny, and on and on. The comparisons can just go wild when you look at a game and nitpick it and try and relate it to things that you've already played. Now this will no doubt cause a lot of negative comments in comment sections of videos of this game, claiming the game is generic AF and another Destiny clone, but if you actually look at the substance of the game and not just what's on the surface, you'll see that Outriders is different. It's not a so-called MMO like Destiny or The Division, where you have random people in your games at times, but it does have co-op even though it has enough story in it to play well as a solo experience. But no matter how unique a new game is these days, it's always going to be compared to games that came before it. The only question is, will it stand out and become its own thing? I guess time will tell, but from everything I've seen, Outriders seems like it has a chance to be one of the better looter shooter RPG games to come out in a long time. Needless to say, I personally am very excited for Outriders. It's been on my radar and I've been looking forward to it ever since it was announced, and I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to make content for it, whether or not I wanted to put out a video for it, but with the demo coming up so soon, I thought it'd be a great time to just share everything that you need to know about the demo, need to know about the game, before deciding to jump in. I'd love to do more content on this game, so with that being said, if you did enjoy this one, make sure to let me know by hitting the like button, and maybe subscribe to stay up to date on everything that I publish. I only cover games on this channel that I'm excited for, or games that I enjoy, and it's been slow going in 2021. I haven't released a ton of content, but I think things are going to start picking up as these games that I'm interested in are starting to come out and starting to have news. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Until next time, I'll see you later.